who have won scholarships. We are looking forward to more people winning scholarships and all of that. But one of the things you need to recognize and realize is the fact that nothing happens, just by accident. There has to be some planning going into things. There has to be some dedicated work going into things. There has to be like some energy that you put into it. Now, if you have traveled outside of the country on, personal funding, or you have funded your studies through your education in your home country, then you want to consider the options you have ahead of you. If your preference is to go get a job after the university education, there is a plan you need to follow in order to get into that position of advantage in terms of winning a job, in terms of securing a job. If your plan is to, or your intention is to win a scholarship and travel out of your country for further studies, or to your country on a scholarship, then you also need to plan. Now, your planning can differ. What your plan is might be different from what the plan of another person will be, because your lines of progress are different, right? But regardless, you needed to have a plan. You certainly do need to have a plan. Now, let's begin to look at it from, take it one after the other. Imagine that somebody is a student. You are working on a particular project in a particular institution. You are rounding up, you're completing your master's degree, for instance, or your bachelor's degree, and you're looking forward to the next thing. Or you are just finishing up your O-level studies, and you are looking forward to the next steps afterwards. You need to now figure out, in the first instance, what opportunities exist ahead of you. Because by the time you figure out the opportunities that exist ahead of you, then you can begin to plan on what is right, on what is perfect, what is the right steps to take in order to get to that opportunity. Now, again, if you are somebody interested in further studies, you know that there are multiple scholarship options waiting for you. We have taken time to discuss all of these scholarship options. We looked at the scholarships that are funded by governments of either your country or governments abroad. We took time to look at the institutional scholarships, the likes of Chevening, the likes of PTDF scholarship. We took time to look at all the other classes of scholarships, including graduate assistantship, for which we are now embarking on a challenge to get access to more professors to increase our chances of winning those graduate assistantships. Now, in fact, just now, if you have been following the page recently, you'll find that many of the scholarships I've been posting are actually scholarships that are classified as graduate assistantships, because these are scholarships that are, they occur more often or during the year. You see something like PTDF scholarship will happen just once in a year, right? But these other scholarships are more frequent because there are many professors hiring people, there are many institutions hiring people into these positions. So you have these multiple chances, you have these expanded opportunities. So somebody who is interested in further studies will know that he has all of these opportunities. Now the question is, how do you plan yourself so that at the point of graduation, you are able to take advantage of one of the scholarships, or maybe a couple of the scholarships, and then move ahead? It starts from where you are today, right? It starts from where you are today. Now, if you are doing a master's program already, who do we even use as typical examples? Okay, let's use that middle, do I call them mid-layer in the educational ladder? Let's say you are doing a master's degree today, and you know you want a scholarship for your PhD and for your postdoctorate, if you're interested in going as far as taking a postdoctorate position. Now, what are the things you need to do in order to secure that scholarship at the time you are done with your studies. The number one thing you need to do is to identify the professors within your faculty that have graduate assistantship opportunities. Or rather, before you even go to the point of identifying the professors, you want to first identify the area within your field that has got so much funding at the moment. Right? I keep telling people, for instance, that if you are somebody in engineering, there is an aspect of engineering that has so much money going into it at the moment. And anybody who is an engineer and looking for scholarships, if you choose to go through that path, you will most certainly collide with a scholarship somewhere in the US, in the UK, in Australia, in Germany, any place, any of the developed countries, because they are so very much focused on advancing technologies within that field that they are just pumping money into it. The government is funding, universities are dumping funds into it, and private organizations are also funding research in these areas. Now, any engineer will know that renewable energy is a topic for every engineering school. Everybody is looking at one aspect or the other of renewable energy. The person is either considering hydrogen generation, hydrogen storage, hydrogen transport, materials for hydrogen storage and all that, wind turbines, recycling of wind turbines, and a whole lot of all of this. Now, if you identify the area within your field that is, having the money, it's just as basic as saying follow the money. When in terms of research, you just need to follow the money. Where the money is going in research is very often where the opportunities are. Now, this is your first step in planning that next stage. You have identified that you want to go to school, further your education, and then you want to identify what aspect of my field has the money, right? I am not an expert in every particular field, but if you are an engineer and you are following me, then you have a very serious advantage, because most times I give examples from engineering because that's where my strength is, that's where my specialty is. Now, if you are an engineer and you are looking at maybe anything related to coal mining of coal, I believe we all know what coal is. It's used for energy generation. It's used in electricity plants in some places. It generates lots of heat and all that. But it's considered fossil fuel. So fossil fuel because it generates lots of CO2, generates lots of emission when you burn it. And this is what the world has classified as causing global warming. That's a main cause of climate change that the world is fighting against now. So if you're an engineer and you are going into coal mining or mining of coal or trying to develop a research in coal mining, you may be looking for funding for years and you wouldn't get any funding in the current world, right? Because most people are divesting away from coal mining and coal-related technology. The days of coal seem to be coming to an end. Of course, fossil fuel will still be relevant to the world's energy mix for the next for the foreseeable future. Maybe even for the next 40, 50 years, we'll still maybe having some combination of oil and gas in the energy mix and all of that based on the forecasts of some organizations. But the point is this: the amount of research funding coming out into these fossil fuel areas is reduced. And you don't want to stay on that, because if you continue to try on that area or in that area, you are limiting your chances. Now, a very smart engineer would just switch a little bit into something that is of a more general value and something that has lots of money going into it. Another area that has a lot of money going into it is the AI, the robotics, the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, and all that. And again, these two areas, whether it's renewable energy or whether it's the AI and the machine learning or the computing and all of that, they're actually not even very discriminatory in terms of who gets into it, right? Because the scope of work that has to be done in these fields is really wide, right? It's large and broad. Somebody was asking me recently about tech and which of the tech skills will pay the most. And I'm like, well, almost everything in tech is a money minting machine. Whether you are doing the product management, you are doing the software development, you are doing the machine learning, cyber security, any of those things. And your background very often does not even really limit you from going into any of this. And this is another area where a lot of money is going into in the world at the moment. So lots of money pouring into tech, lots of money pouring into renewable energy, and lots of money pouring into different other sectors of different fields and different areas of study. So you just need to identify your own field, your own area of study, what aspect of it, what particular research topic in this your area has most of the money at this point. And once you're able to identify that area, then you have started on a very good note. Then, if you are already abroad and studying in any of these institutions that have all this research funding, all these graduate assistantships and all that, what you need to do is just simple. Within your faculty and within your school, if they call it school, you want to find the professor, the doctor, the associate professor, or any lecturer that has got a research interest in that field. And now, when you travel out, you need to pay attention to some things, because there are some professors abroad that are more inclined towards teaching. They are more in the teaching aspect of things. They take more courses, they do most of those things. There are some other professors and doctors and associate professors that are more research oriented. These ones that are more research oriented are often the ones that get the opportunities, because they are the ones submitting proposals to companies for funding. They are the ones submitting proposals to governments for funding. And in every school, you will find a particular professor within that school that is very much, that is generating a lot of funding for research. So you want to pay attention to those people, and then you want to find out what opportunities do they have at the moment, right? Just follow the line of thought. So you have identified the area that has the funding, has the money, and then you now identify a professor either in your school or in one other school that has that kind of, that is interested in that particular area, and this is the person you want to align with. You want to get close to this person. You want to get in touch with that person. You want to start building a rapport and a very good relationship with the person. The reason you are building this relationship is because there is a target in the end. That's your plan. That's your game plan that you've come with. And if you play this game appropriately, play the game very well, and there is an opportunity at the end, there is just no way you will not be able to secure yourself a scholarship. Now, and some persons will be like, but I am somewhere in the Asian continent, I'm somewhere in Africa, I'm somewhere in South America, I'm somewhere, just any part of the world. How do I take advantage of this kind of planning? Now, back in the days when I was still in Russia, I knew a professor in University of Alberta in Canada who was doing something similar to what I was doing, or who had a research interest in the area I was planning to go into at the time. And then we started conversations very early at the point. Of course, unfortunately, at the point when I was done, the man did not have any particular funding, but he was very much committed to, I should come over, and then when I come over, something can come up in between the time of my resumption and graduation, and then he will be very much willing to consider me for it. So you can be in Ghana, you can be in South Africa, you can be in Nigeria, in Botswana, you can be in Sierra Leone, Gambia, any place. And if you follow this game plan, if there is no professor within your school, in your country that has these opportunities, look out for professors in all the other countries you want to go to. We have already discussed that we all need to identify 5 schools in 5 different countries of the world that we are interested in going to. So find any of those professors and then start a conversation with them, right? One of the ways you can very much easily start a conversation with a professor is go take up the person's research work, read through that research work, and then ask him a question about that research work, right? And most people, most professors I know, and most authors of books and authors of research articles that I know will very much willingly respond to any question you're asking them about their research work, because for them it is an opportunity to expand, the level of knowledge that has been passed through that research. You start up there, and then the person can always relate with you, engage with you, and then progress the conversation going forward. But if you fold your hands and just concentrate on what you are doing at the moment without looking at the future, then you most likely will not be in the best state to grab one of those opportunities when they come. So you want to get yourself ready, you want to get yourself aligned by identifying the opportunity, identifying the field that has the money, identifying the professors that have that funding. Now, in addition to professors that have funding, you can also apply sometimes directly to institutions. There are, in some countries, you have institutions that are research oriented. They are dedicated to, progressing research in those countries, and they have all this funding that is going into the areas of their interest. When you find those kind of people, you want to start applying through them. Now, this is for people who are looking for scholarships. Of course, you may also want to identify the fact that most of these people have a minimum requirement that they desire in their students, and then you want to work towards that minimum requirement. Now, let's look at those that are looking for jobs. And this is very important for all the people who are already abroad as foreign students, and very important to all the people who are planning to come abroad as foreign students, as well as important for all the people who are about to graduate from their individual countries. Now, there was a time I had a chat with someone here in the UK, and I was asking the person to identify, to mention, I was asking, the question was more around, do you know any company in your city that is practicing what you studied in school? Like, do you know any company within the city you are living that's practicing what you are studying? Where can you apply this knowledge that you are gaining today, right? So you are studying, like, say, psychology, you are studying philosophy, you are studying maths, you are studying physics, engineering, anything, education, chemistry, physics, any of the things you are studying. Do you know any company within your area that has that where you can practice that stuff that you are studying? If you have not come to the point of identifying the schools, the institutions and the organizations, the companies where you can apply the knowledge you are gaining in school, then you are not doing yourself so much good. Of course, for doctors, there will always be hospitals around where the doctors will go to practice and all of that. But for those who are in engineering and all these other courses in architecture, in say management courses, in any of the things, if you are in any of those courses and you are studying it, you want to, as quickly as possible, identify the companies within your area that are, practicing these things you are studying. The reason you want to do it as early as possible is because you want to think of life as somebody who knows networking, somebody who understands networking and the power of networks. So by the time you identify these companies, what should be your next step? You're either looking for an entry into the company as somebody who wants to do an internship, or you're looking for an entry into the company as somebody who wants to, come in as a graduate. Now, I think the last time when we had a live interaction, I mentioned I was going for an event. It was an event by the Society of Petroleum Engineers in Aberdeen here. I went there, and somebody came there to make a presentation on a topic that is directly related to my PhD, and I had to go there. The reason I went there is not because it's not just to go there just to participate in it, but to start building a network with people who are already in industry practice of what I am doing, right? And then I met a young man there from Nigeria who he used to study in my school. He was doing a master's degree in my university, and he had an internship opportunity in that company. Now, the reason he came to that place that day was because he wanted to meet the guy who was to present, because the presenter was his former supervisor during his internship. Now, how do all these things link up? He has got a job in one other company that is actually planning to sponsor his visa and all that, but still, he knows that he can find a a re-entry into that company through this particular man, and then he can find a re-entry into that team through this particular group of people. Now, how did he get the job that he's doing at the moment that is planning to sponsor his visa? It may probably have been impossible for him to get that job, or more difficult for him to get that job, if he had not gone through that internship. But figuring out the fact that you want to be in the industry, or you want to be in this particular kind of practice, is something you really need to figure out as quickly as possible, and then start building a plan towards it. Now, for all the people who are studying education, I call you people a lot because somehow I've got a background in education. Somehow within my family we have people who are in education and all that. So I have like a good level of understanding about life as an educator and life as a teacher. Now, if you are a student of education, you want to just realize as quickly as possible that schools are not the only place where you can work, right? You must not go become a secondary school teacher. You mustn't go become a primary school teacher. You must not go become just any of the classroom kind of teachers. Now, there are additional places where you can work, and some of those additional places will actually give you opportunity to make even more money as an educator. For instance, you may choose to work in education administration, right? And very often, you may also find companies where you can break into their human resources development department, or what do they call it in some place? Some people will call it like, there are institutions that are purely built on capacity building. And then managing those kind of institutions, for instance, might require the knowledge of education, the services of somebody who has got a background in education. But you want to identify these places as quickly as possible while you are still in school, because you want to start building a network in those organizations, ahead of time. In addition to building that network within the organization, the other thing we want to do is you're identifying what kind of skills are needed in this organization or in these organizations that my school is not teaching me. So if the organization requires you to have, say, some programming skills, through that network you are building in the school or in the institution, you will get to know that, yes, you need to have this particular skill, you need to have this other particular skill, and then you start building those skills and aligning those skills with the realities on ground in that company. And these are things you just have to really start doing. Now, what is the place for, or what role does academic publications or journal papers play on your scholarship applications. You know, a lot of times people are looking at scholarships and feeling like, well, I can't get a scholarship because I did not have a first class. I can't get a scholarship because I don't have a 2-2. I can't win a scholarship because of this, because of that. But by the time you start writing academic papers, and you know, this is not something really so difficult to do. You can write papers from your project topics. You can write papers from you know, the work you've done in school and all that. But by the time you have one or two of those papers written and they align with the research topics of certain professors around the world, you will find that those people will be very much willing to listen to you because you have evidence, you've demonstrated evidence of your ability to conduct research, to do things that are academic, to go through a research and then come up with a conclusion and complete finding. Now, before we continue to expand that line of discussion, if you have just joined us, this is Academy of Scholarships and Transitions. And on Academy of Scholarships and Transitions, we talk about scholarships, we talk about personal development, and then we talk about everything in between. We discuss the profitable use of social media and the opportunities that exist within social media. So you are doing these papers and you are getting in touch with these professors and they are seeing what you have done, you are writing about your papers, you are publishing about your papers on your social media platforms where these professors are already hooked in, right? You remember that when we discussed LinkedIn profile optimization, we talked about the value of you creating your own professional content on these platforms. And then, of course, before you start creating those content and they becoming very profitable, or rather, to increase the profitability of this content you are creating, you want to already have these professors brought into your network. So you've done your papers, you've published your papers, you're talking about your papers on social media, you're carrying your paper all over the place and discussing it. These people are seeing those papers, and then because they are seeing those papers, you can very much easily start a conversation with them. So, and that's just some of the things you need to do in order to get these things fixed. I tell people that education is expensive. I know this because here in the United Kingdom, for instance, if you want to do a master's degree, in fact, even a bachelor's degree, if you want to do a bachelor's degree in some institutions in the UK, you'll be paying as high as maybe £27,000 on a yearly basis. If you are from a country like Nigeria, £24,000 at the moment will be somewhere around 36 million naira. Somewhere around that range, around maybe 36 million naira. So you can imagine the cost of it, and this will be your payment into the school's account, not the cost of your living, not the cost of rent, not your transportation around the city. None of these things has come into it. If you find a relatively cheap school, you'll be paying somewhere around £16,000. Now, you probably don't have as much money to pay. Now, your only option is to go get a scholarship. If you want to get this scholarship, you need to actually plan for it. And don't come into the mist or the game of winning scholarships with a mindset that is talking, this is my research interest, this is what I want to do, right? If I knew what I know now back in 2015, I probably should have become a Canadian citizen at the moment, because at the time my passion was very much an area of petroleum engineering that's no longer having all the funding that was required or having as much funding as it used to have back many years ago. It's still a relevant aspect of oil and gas. It's still very much practiced in the industry. You can still get jobs into that area of oil and gas, but funding for that area is really was limited at the time of my graduation. But the other area that had all the funding pouring into it was an area I sort of wasn't interested in. right? Wasn't so very much interested in. Now, this is not to say that you should move completely away from your area of interest, because again, you need some level of interest in something to be able to push through, a PhD in that particular area. You need some extent of interest in something to be able to like go through a PhD in it. If you don't have any of those interests at all, you may not want to go into it. But as somebody who is interested in oil and gas in general, I should be able to like move around within the space of oil and gas, depending on the area of the field that's having the money. I should naturally be able to like adapt into any of those. I wasn't willing to do it, and then you shouldn't be as unwilling to do it as I was, because when you become relatively more flexible on your choices in terms of as a scholarship seeker, you find that you have more options, and then your chances of winning a scholarship, it becomes really very much increased. Now, this is Academy of Scholarships and Transitions. I don't know who has got any questions, but the first comment on this video is asking for questions. If you have any questions, please just drop your questions in the comment section, and let me just answer them on the go. Now, if you are following us or if you've never followed us and you come across our video, I request you follow, not because for two things, because if you follow, it increases the reach of the page, but ultimately, you will gain the kind of knowledge you wouldn't find on most other platforms when you join us. So just make the choice to hit the follow button. If you have also not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you are not doing us much good, and you are not doing yourself also much good. Kindly find us on YouTube, Academy of Scholarships and Transitions, and then subscribe. There is a whole lot planned out for the future. There's a whole lot planned out for this year, and we will work to get to where we are going. So planning is key. You will have to go conduct lots of planning on all the things you do in life. And then you will have to don't live life randomly. Don't think of life as a hit and run, as random successes and all that. Life should be planned out. And when you have when you have a plan, and then you are working on the plan, you are able to achieve sustainable success. And by the way, people are winning these scholarships, people are getting these jobs, even in your own country, regardless of the level of corruption. And there's not everybody who gets a job in a corrupt country not everybody who gets a job in a corrupt country got it through a corrupt practice, right? So if you do the right thing, follow these steps, identify these companies. It's amazing that somebody will be spending so much money in school, right? Spending millions of naira in school, but does not know any company within the vicinity of his locality that is practicing what he studies, or where he or she can practice what he or she is studying in school. Now, you may even not blame the person completely just for not knowing, but the person does not know any company within that locality and does not know any company outside that locality. So the question is, what do you eventually want to do with the certificate? Why are you spending all that money in the school? Somebody is wanting a scholarship but does not know any professor or does not know any organization that is offering scholarships in that particular space. You don't even know where the money is going into in your own field. But the question becomes, how exactly do you want to achieve these dreams? This is Academy of Scholarships and Transitions. We'll talk about these kind of things, and we'll point out these areas that you really need to be paying attention to. So please do us some good. Hit the share button on this video, and then let's know what questions you have on the comment section. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section, and let's look at them just now. So I can see one question already. Somebody is asking, thank you, sir, for this great enlightenment. This is the best page to be in. Values are loaded here. Keep up the good work, sir. Okay, thank you so much. This wasn't a question. This was just an appreciation. And if anybody has got any questions, please drop your questions in the comment section. I'll hang around for the next 5 to 10 minutes and we should just be done. But yeah, David is saying follow the money. Yeah, but that's it. That's how research works. And research is about the money is always pointing to where the opportunities are. If you see research money, if you see money going into a particular area of research, then you can just hold on to it. The next couple of years, there will be lots of jobs on that area, especially if that money is coming from global institutions. If you look at either global institutions in terms of all these United Nations, World Health Organization, and World Bank, and all those kind of places, or global organizations like the big major oil and gas companies, or maybe the big research institutes that we have across the world. If the money is flowing into a specific area of research from these organizations, you know that something massive is awaiting that particular field. If it is going into reservoir engineering, know that there's a lot going to happen in reservoir engineering. If it's going into adult education, know that a lot of money, a lot of jobs will open up in those areas. If it's going into mental health, whatever, know that a lot is going to happen there. If it's social works, know that there are lots of opportunities going to open up in the field of social works. That's the way it is, and that's just the kind of thing we do on Academy of Scholarships and Transitions. I want to take this opportunity to appreciate every one of you that has been joining us regularly. David has been amazing. Yakubu has also been amazing. Jane has been amazing. Victory amazing, and a whole lot of other persons, Dr. Anselm, and all the rest of the people that have either continuously joined our live sessions. Millie is amazing. I can't even name all of you, but if you have been joining our live sessions, if you've been liking our posts, if you've been commenting on our posts, sharing our posts, following us on YouTube, just know that I value all of those so very much. Thank you so much. And there is a comment from David. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for all you do. You have spoken extensively on this, but please, can you help me with advice? I did my bachelor's in machines and equipment of oil and gas industry in Moscow. Oh, wow. Moscow people. Bratan Privet. Now I'm rounding up my master's in production and industrial engineering. Where do you advise I head to for PhD? Oil and gas equipment, master's in production and industrial engineering. Oh, okay. So how do we start this? Now, let me answer this question with a story, and hopefully this story helps us. I met a man recently. He's from Nigeria and lives here in the UK, and he was consulting for for the company I work with at the moment. He's consulting for the company actually. So one day we were discussing, and he was asking me if I am a process engineer in terms of I think the chemical engineers and all that. I said no, that my background is oil and gas. He was like, there is something they do. You know this software that is called ANSYS? No, not ANSYS. What's it called again? Chemical engineers will know this. If you're a chemical engineer, in the comment section, there is a software you guys use for designing processes. I think it's called the name is just escaping my mind at the moment. It's called Aspen. I think Aspen HYSYS. Yeah, Aspen HYSYS. So he was telling us that, or he was telling me that he makes a whole lot of money designing processes on Aspen HYSYS. Right? Now, as somebody who is rounding up a master's degree in industrial engineering, you may look at areas of process engineering that could be of very good value to you, and then you may consider it. But then again, as somebody who has got a background in oil and gas equipment, you may look at areas of oil and gas at the moment. The decommissioning aspect of oil and gas is also a very good field that one can go into as a PhD student. Actually, decommissioning is where my own PhD is like centered around. And that's me moving a little bit away from drilling and well designs and all that into this new area. It's new. There are lots of uncertainties around it. There are lots of questions people are asking around that area. That could be a good area for a PhD. But again, an engineer will not go wrong if you take any aspect of all the renewable energy related kind of courses. It's really difficult to say go for this particular one. Maybe we may have to discuss one-on-one, and then we see the things you are interested in, your core strengths, and the areas that really have all the opportunities going into it, and then you can pick up any of them. But if you look at any of these areas as a production and industrial engineer, maybe process engineering could be an addition, and then if you're able to pick up some of those software skills, you may actually you should actually do amazingly well in terms of return on education investment. But this is just how it is, right? Then somebody is saying, happy to be here today. Yasin, thank you so much for joining us. And Sarah is asking, following, let me drop my question. Okay, so let's see who has some of the other questions. Sarah, I'm looking forward to your question. Just drop it in the comment section and I will respond to it. David, I hope that was helpful. You may drop me a message on WhatsApp and we can have a more detailed conversation. But again, as an industrial and a production and industrial engineering person, process engineering could be an area that may really go very well. There's another area of engineering that may be very good for a process and a production engineer person. There is something, but that area can be a little bit full of maths and full of codings and all that. There's something called stochastic optimization of processes, where they discuss this. It's a kind of how do I explain it? So it's mostly on the aspect of process assurance, in terms of ensuring that machines are able to run continuously without breakdown. It's predictive maintenance. That's what the area is used for. I know a research that somebody is conducting on how to use that aspect, stochastic analysis, to predict failures in drilling wells or pre-forecast possible failures during drilling. So that's another area that is, I know it's, schools are going into it, there's money coming into it, is predictive maintenance using stochastic modeling and stochastic, studies and all of that. That could be another area that a process and production person can go into, because you don't want your plants to shut down, you don't want your plants to break down. And then again, at the level of a PhD, most research will be cross-disciplinary or interdisciplinary. So there will be a touch from mechanical, there will be a touch from materials, there will be a touch from processes, and that combination can make a very good PhD. All right, so I'll be looking forward to your chat on WhatsApp. So Sarah said, I have a degree in public health. I have been applying to different scholarships, but no avail. What advice can you give me? All right, so public health is a really good aspect of very important area that most of us are, will know the value of it. But again, the scholarships you're applying for, the first question I would like to ask if we were to do an interrogation is, of what relevance is public health to the funding organizations? Because some of these fundings they come with a level of bias. So if you find the kind of scholarship I am on, if you apply for it, for instance, from a health science background, you most likely will not win the scholarship. right? It will be very difficult for somebody from a health science background to convince that organization to award the person a scholarship to do a PhD. Right. Now, if you have a public health related degree and you're looking for a public health kind of scholarship, you may want to find organizations that have inclination towards public health. You may want to find funding bodies that have inclination towards public health, or you may want to find specific professors within public health and focus on them. Because I believe that with the pandemic and with what happened during COVID, there should be lots of funding within that public health space where people are trying to like figure out the reasons for pandemics, how to prevent them, what could have been done better, back studying the pandemic and maybe like even forward studies of maybe the impacts of the vaccines and all of that. There should be areas within public health that is getting some money at the moment from institutions and from these organizations. So if you identify those professors who have a bias towards, in favor of public health, or the organizations that are biased towards a favor of public health, those will be a very good starting point towards getting a scholarship that you will win. Then again, of course, there is the conversation around the quality of the application you are submitting and all of that kind of thing. When a scholarship is advertised, always they will always give like indications as to what they are looking for in the ideal candidate, and candidates should always try to align the application with those requirements and expectations. I hope that helps, and then let's see if